Howdy humans, welcome back. It's Micah at Coffee and Chaos. Today we are going to do a quarterly flip through of my reading journal. I figured quarterly would probably be good. I've had a chance to read a decent amount of books, so it won't be utterly boring. But here we go. Let's just jump right into it, right? Okay. So we've got my little cover page here. This is my Goodreads challenge for 2023. If y'all remember from my initial setup and flip through, I got a little exuberant with my boxes here, but my goal is 100 books in 2023. And as of the end of March, I am at 30 books, which I think is pretty good. Right on track. That gives me a little chance to even slow down a little bit if necessary. In January, I read 6 books. In February, I read 13 books. So in March, I read 10 books, right? Does the math there? No, it's 11. Oh my gosh, y'all. I'm sorry. I've had such a long day, but I wanted to get this filmed today so I can start editing. My daughter and I had girls' day today, which is basically we go eat good food, do a lot of shopping, and spend some fantastic time together. Had a great time, but mamas were out, man. Okay, so onward. Here is my book bingo with Emma. As you can see, I haven't bingoed yet. I'm getting close. I literally need one going in multiple directions. I need to actually search out some books to fill these in. In January, here's my reading tracker. In January, so each of these little boxes equals 100 pages. In January, I read over 1,000 pages. And then in February and March, both, I did even more pages. I'm very happy with that. And I kind of like how this is kind of turning out. I think it looks cute, and I'm excited to see where it ends up by the end of the year. This is my 2023 reading log. I am not writing titles of books in here. This is simply for me to see kind of a easy visual representation of what book formats I'm reading. The green is for physical books, which is books that end up being from my personal library, ones that I own that are here in my home that I need to get read so I can move them on out and make room for new books. Purple is books on Kindle, which I have a million books on Kindle. That might not be too much of an exaggeration, honestly. And I am trying to work through those too. It's not as big of a deal because, they don't take up any space, but I am trying to make some progress. So I've read some of those. And then my daughter and I did get our library cards for the new area that we live about 2 months ago-ish. And we've been making it a point to go to the library weekly, bi-weekly, depending on how life's going. And so the aqua is for books that I've gotten from the library. So this is turning out nicely. This is just a printable that I found like on Pinterest or something. Or maybe I got it off Etsy. I'll have to see if I can find out. And if I do, I will link it below. But I really like it. Next up is my what I read, just like my book covers with my star ratings. As you can see, I have not filled in any of March's books. I have a file on my computer that I have saved the covers on, and honestly, I have converted it into a file format called SVG that works with my silhouette cutter, and I'm really just waiting until I have a full page of those covers that are sized correctly, because I have it formatted so that my silhouette will cut them out for me, and then I can just paste them in. I have been putting my star ratings though, so that I at least have that kept up with. Next up is my Reading to Zero spread. This spread, if you'll recall, is a listing of all of the books that I physically own. I used to, and I may still do this, yard sales haven't started up where I live so far this year, so I don't know. But what I used to do was I would go to a yard sale, and if they had a bunch of books that I really was interested in reading, I would make them an offer for everything. So this list is those books that I have in my physical possession that I own right now that I want to get read. The ones that are highlighted with the check marks are ones that I have read so far this year. So I'm making decent progress. I've read some decent books. Some I found out, like, I thought I would really, really like this Two Cats, Three Tails. I'll get to it further back here where I do my reviews and stuff, but I really thought I'd like those. I really did not like them. Like, they were fine, but ugh, I'm not reading any more of them. So anyways, my series tracker is still pretty empty. I really have been focusing on reading the books of the series. So Game of Thrones, I'm all caught up on that series, just waiting for Mr. George to put out the next book, like 8 million other people, you know. The Iron Fae, I am working my way through right now. Great library. I'm almost done, and I would have finished this series in March, except I mistakenly checked out only the 5th book from the library and forgot the 4th book. So I haven't yet made it back over there to grab it. So I might do that tomorrow. Anyways, so that's where I'm at. And then I'm getting ready to do a reread of the Black Dagger Brotherhood series. There are a couple of new books since last time I read them. And at that point, I didn't do a complete reread. So I realized that the last time I loaned out my book 1, it never got returned. So I had to repurchase it. So I just did that a couple of days ago, and I'm waiting on it to arrive. And then that will take a space here. My 2023 Beat the Backlist Challenge. I'm rocking this one, honestly, y'all. I do need to go through and start looking more at like when something was released, or, I've gotten to the point now where I have to be a little more invested in actually seeking out books that fit the prompts versus already reading books that fit prompts that are there. And kind of the same thing here with the Pop Sugar Challenge. This one's actually much more of a challenge than I thought that it would be. So again, I need to go through and start looking for books that fit these prompts specifically. Some of them, like, an indie bookstore, here's the problem. Where I live, there's only one indie bookstore that I know of, and their hours are while I am working. So I never get to go there. I've been there one time for a special event that they did a couple of months ago, but they weren't open for shopping during the event, which I thought was kind of odd, but it's fine. So I don't actually have any books that I have bought from an indie bookstore, and I really hope that I can find some, because I really, really want bookstores to continue to be a thing and not just big ones. Like, I went to Half Price Books today and bought books only for my kids. Isn't that weird? And then there's a Barnes and Noble, but those are the only ones I know of other than like Amazon. So if there are indie bookstores that y'all know about, like that offer like even online shopping or something, drop a link for me if you don't mind, because I really want to support them. Next up, we are into my monthly logs. I have decided to do like junk journal style cover pages for each month because I love junk journaling. I haven't been able to do a whole lot of it in the last year or so, and I miss it. So I just kind of got crafty, and I love this. So this is January. I probably do things a little differently than I think a lot of people who do reading journals do. I don't actually talk a whole lot about the book itself, and like I don't do a breakdown of the story or like a summary or anything like that. I write a very little blurb about it and kind of some general thoughts, but then I actually go through and log quotes that resonated with me in some way. And then I will generally journal a little bit about why that particular quote resonated with me. This is something that I'm actually doing as part of like my mental health homework with my therapist, is as an effort to really like connect with myself. And actually, I don't know, I really like it. It really makes me think about why I like certain things. So Storm of Swords, there's, there's not a lot in the Game of Thrones books that like really resonates with me like on a personal level, but I really, really enjoy the fantasy and the storytelling. They're great books. It's just not so much of a wow, I identify with this character a lot of time. Then I read No Home for Killers by E.A. Amar. This was really an interesting book. I expected it to kind of be like, as I referred to here, fluff. And it wasn't really like, it was actually really interesting. So there's a nice twist, which a lot of times I find certain genres of books to be very, very predictable for me. Sometimes that's fine. Most of the time it gets on my nerves. I like to be surprised. I like to not be able to tell what is happening. It's nice to have something that I expect to be one thing, not be that. And that book was kind of that. Where the Crawdads Sing, I read that because my daughter and I had watched the movie and really, really enjoyed it. And so I think a lot of people read Where the Crawdads Sing like as part of maybe a high school class or something. I was in like an advanced class and I think I kind of skipped right over it between like middle school and high school. I think I kind of skipped right over this one, but it was really, really good. I really liked it. Again, there was a little twist that I kind of figured was coming. It was good all the same, but there was quite a bit there that kind of resonated with me. Absolute favorite book of the quarter, hands down, no question. And it was an absolute shock to me. The Chemistry of Love by Sariah Wilson. I think I'm saying that correctly, Sariah. If I'm not, I apologize. This book, this is one of those, I expected it. It was what I expected it to be. It was a romantic comedy. I'm normally not a huge romance person. This was one of the Amazon first reads freebies a few months back. I started reading it. It literally made me laugh out loud at various points. The main character is witty, funny, sarcastic, bright. Loved this book so much, despite the fact that it was a very predictable book within this trope. But it was fantastic. If you like kind of that smart, sarcastic kind of a thing, I think you'll really, really like this book. I highly recommend it. It was my favorite. And then going into, obviously, romance ain't really my thing. Fantasy Lover by Sherilyn Kenyon. It was one of my physical books that I had here. I read it. Bleh. Like, it was just, I didn't love it. And then The Man Who Came Uptown was one, I think maybe I won this like on a Goodreads giveaway or something. This, I think, was my only 1 star. It was just so badly written. And I really don't say things like that very often because I think there is value in everything like this. But the character development sucked. Like, it would kind of start to introduce a character, and the way it was written, you were like, oh, this person's going to be important later on, and then they never show up again. Or, I don't know, didn't like it. Next up, February. There's my little cover page with my little junk journaling going on. A Feast of Crows. Again, Game of Thrones. But here's the thing. This quote from this book, I loved. I should have written down who wrote it or who said it, and I didn't. I don't know why. But it was, Edwin, I'm giving you your father's command. Try not to be so stupid as your sire. And he says, that ought not pose much difficulty, my lord. And it made me laugh. I thought that was funny. And then I got into the Iron Fae saga series and the Great Library series. And I really like both of them. The Iron Fae series both of those are young adult / teen type series. I like books from that genre a lot of the time. The Iron King the Iron Fae series is very light but nicely written and a nice little storyline. I have always loved anything like fairy and fantasy, and it's just a nice little journey into that, and I really like it. And then the Great Library series is actually a book that's like, what if things in past history had gone differently? And it's a look kind of at what things could look like if that had happened. And so it's very interesting to me. I liked that a lot. The next book, I'm going to try it. I'm actually going to leave this. I'm going to talk about it a little bit. I am going to put a little bit of a trigger warning here. The title of the book is The Selfless Act of Breathing. The back of the book gives you no warning that the first bit is about a character wanting to unalive themselves. And actually, it is talked about frequently throughout the book. That is the character's main goal. It is something that I very much would have liked to appreciate a trigger warning for. So if you do not want to hear anything about this book, just fast forward a bit and I will completely understand. Okay. When I read this book, I should not have read this book. I was not at a place with my mental health where I was capable of handling it well. And honestly, my mental health being what it is, I don't know that I ever should have read this book. And I will say that if you are a person who struggles with suicidal ideation or self-harm or thoughts of hurting yourself in any way, maybe skip this one. So we're going to move right on. Okay. So next up is The Cat Who Could Read Backwards. This is one of those two cats, three tails books. I call it brain bubble gum because it was absolutely no thinking whatsoever. It's a mystery, but it's very lighthearted. It's very predictable. And then the rest of these books, Iron Daughter, Iron Queen, Paper and Fire, Ashen Quill, The Cat Who Ate Danish Modern, and The Cat Who Was Turned On and Off. I just put a note. These were all read during my depression spiral. No notes. Because I do want to document that too. Next up, we're into March. March is when things kind of started getting a little bit better. I read The Beach House by Jane Green. It was such a cute little read. It was quick, predictable, but it just left me smiling, which was necessary. So that was nice. All Our Darkest Secrets. This, I liked it. It was good. Like I say, there's some quotes there. It was pretty good. Leviathan by Scott Westerfield. I don't have any notes on that because honestly, that is one that I think my son must have left here. So it wasn't really my jam. It's again another one like what if history had turned out differently kind of a thing. And it was okay, but I was glad when it was over. The Missing One, it was okay. Up All Night with a Good Duke. That book is one of what I refer to as a bodice ripper, is what my grandmother always called them, and it just stuck with me. Very typical, set in the 1800s, the poor peasant girl and the rich duke, and, they fall in love, and it's all very take me, I'm yours. And it's just not really my thing, but it was brain bubblegum. I'll just apologize now if you can hear my cat. I'm not sure if you can, but he is angry that I left. And so he's being a turd. Okay. A Dance with Dragons. I don't know if it's just been too long since I've seen this portion of Game of Thrones, but I don't know if it's just been so long since I've watched Game of Thrones or what, but it seems like I don't remember much of any of this book actually happening in the series. So now I feel like I need to go back and rewatch the series. It's like a never-ending loop for me and my lack of memory. The Woman in Cabin 10 by Ruth Ware. It wasn't bad. The ending of it, I don't know whether it's just that maybe I was having a moment of density in my brain, but the ending of it kind of left my imagination wandering a little bit, which I enjoy. I like books that make me keep thinking about them after they're done. Safe Haven by Nicholas Sparks. Again, I went into it. This is very predictable. I know exactly what's going to happen for the most part, and the main plot points and that kind of thing. And it was that. It absolutely was that. But in some ways, books like that are kind of like settling into a nice comfy blanket. This book cover was pretty triggering for me, so it was one of those things. Angel in a Devil's Arms. This is one of those that it's a bodice ripper again, but and like the first sentence here, I hate it when brain bubblegum books make me think. When I go into it expecting it to be very light, very poor peasant girl and the duke fall in love, take me, I'm yours, da da da. This was that. However, I actually really identified with the main character. Not with the falling in love part and all of that, because, yeah, that's not happening. But just kind of what she'd been through and how she feels and that kind of a thing. It actually made me think a lot. Like, so much so that I actually brought this book up to my friend Emma, who's mentioned back at the beginning, because there was one scene of the book that I was like, I feel like this could have been a conversation between you and I. And so that was really funny. But yeah, so like, I mean, decent amount of journaling for a bodice ripper here. Made me think. But maybe that's a sign of a good book. So if you like a bodice ripper, and there you go. And then now I'm back on the Iron Fae series. The Iron Knight, Iron's Prophecy, which is one of the novellas that goes with it. Again, they're light. They're not a lot of thinking. It's just a nice little fantasy world to run away to. Now, we are in April. I am working on the next book in the Iron Fae series currently. And I think I wanted to do the quarterly flip through. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, guys, because I don't know, it seems like that way we get a little more meat with our potatoes, okay? I'd love to hear how your year in books is going. Is there anything that you would recommend to me? Especially if there's anything that would meet some of my prompts and my challenges that I have not filled out yet. Drop me the Rex, y'all, please. I appreciate it so much. That, I think, is it for this video. Thank you guys so much for coming back and listening to me ramble on. I'm really having a good time learning this whole YouTube video-y thingy and trying to get better for you guys. So let me know what you want to see. Let me know if you have any recommendations. Please subscribe if you like what I'm starting to do here. There is more chaos coming, I promise. So have a great day. Have a great weekend if it's your weekend. Morning, afternoon, evening, all of it. Thanks so much, y'all. Bye.